Flight staff mocked a grandma's old suitcase. Silence fell when her private jet crew arrived. At the bustling Karachi International Airport, travelers rushed through the terminal, clutching phones, dragging luggage, and scanning departure boards with anxious eyes. Among the crowd stood an elderly woman, her small frame wrapped in a faded beige shawl. Her name was Grandma Halima, fragile in appearance, yet holding a quiet grace that few could recognize. Beside her rested an old, cracked brown suitcase, its corners patched with cloth and tied with a piece of rope. The suitcase looked like it had lived 100 lives, scratched by time, soaked in memories. Some travelers looked at it with pity, others with judgment. When she reached the check-in counter, the airline staff were already in a bad mood. It had been a long day, flights delayed, passengers angry, and the line stretching farther with each minute. The airline agent, a young woman with sharp lipstick and sharper attitude, glanced at Halima. Next, she snapped. Grandma Halima stepped forward, slowly placing her passport and ticket on the counter. With her trembling hands, she tried to lift her suitcase. The staff exchanged smirks. "Is this thing your luggage?" One laughed, another whispered loudly, "Looks like it belongs in a museum." Passengers in line chuckled. Someone pulled out their phone, ready to record a funny moment. Halima looked down, her silence heavier than any suitcase. She had never cared for luxury, but humiliation, especially in front of strangers, always stung the heart. The staff member tapped impatiently. "Ma'am, this is an international flight. You should have at least proper luggage." "Sir, please step aside, you're holding up the line." The guard stepped forward as if ready to escort her away, but Halima stood still. She didn't shout, she didn't defend herself. Instead, she calmly said, "This suitcase has carried more love than you can imagine." Her voice was soft, but those close enough heard the weight behind it. The airline employees weren't interested in philosophy. They just wanted efficiency, order, rules. Grandma Halima sighed deeply and stepped away from the counter. She sat alone on a bench, her old suitcase resting by her side, like a silent companion. But fate was about to change the scene completely. Moments later, 3 sharply dressed men entered through a reserved terminal door. Their suits were crisp, badges displayed, walkie-talkies buzzing. These were not regular airport workers, they were private aviation security officers. They looked around as if searching for someone important. A voice announced over the speakers, "Private jet crew requesting arrival assistance at gate 05. Guest expected is Ms. Halima Noor." The name echoed, and people turned, whispering. The officers approached the bench, and bowed. "Madam Halima, we have been waiting. Your private jet crew is ready. Your flight will depart in 30 minutes. We apologize for the delay." The airport froze. Every person who laughed, every staff member who ridiculed, stood in stunned silence. Grandma Halima slowly rose, confused but dignified. One of the officers gently picked up her old suitcase. That he did not sneer. He did not hesitate. That he held it like it was treasure. Another placed a silk shawl around her shoulder. A third held his hand out to guide her path. The same airline agent who laughed earlier now stood speechless. Passengers whispered, "Who is she? Why does she have a private jet? Is she a queen?" But the truth was far more powerful. Halima was not royalty. Not a business tycoon. Not a celebrity. She was simply a grandmother, whose kindness once changed a life. Years ago, a starving orphan boy wandered through her street. His clothes were torn, his face dirty, and he had no name, no home, nothing. Halima found him near her gate and took him in. She fed him, clothed him, taught him how to read, and treated him like he was her own blood. She did not ask who he was, she did not ask if he could repay her. She gave, because giving was her nature. That little boy grew up. That he studied, worked, built a career. Today, he was the owner of several international companies. And he had sent his private jet to bring the woman who had once given him a home. As she walked toward the exclusive lounge, escorted by her private jet crew, her suitcase bounced lightly in the officer's grip. The people who once mocked it now watched with shame. Halfway through, Halima paused. She turned toward the check-in counter. Her eyes met the young airline staff, whose face now burned with embarrassment. Halima smiled gently. "My dear, never judge a person by what they carry, but by what they have carried through life." Tears welled in the woman's eyes. She lowered her head, unable to speak. With quiet dignity, Halima continued toward the jet. The world outside the lounge was loud, announcements, arguments, engines. But inside her heart, a peaceful silence bloomed. When she reached the jet, the orphan she raised, now a powerful CEO, rushed down the stairs. "Amy, you made me wait," he said, placing his forehead at her feet. Grandma Halima touched his head. "I never expected anything from you," she whispered, "and that," he said, "is exactly why I must give you everything." As she stepped into the luxurious jet, soft leather seats, gold-trimmed windows, and a dining table set like a palace feast, she looked at her suitcase. The crew carefully placed it inside. Some things money could replace, some things never. The engines roared, the jet lifted, the airport below shrank into dots, but one lesson remained echoing in every mind who witnessed it: respect is not earned by wealth, clothing, or luggage, but by the stories a soul carries, unseen.